Welcome students to the series of lectures on LangGraph. In this session, we are going to discuss something very interesting, very important. Till now, we have introduced LLMs into our LangGraph workflow. But in this session, we'll move one step further. In this lecture, we are going to build a multi-agent system. What? A multi-agent system in our LangGraph. Definitely with the help of large language model, but we'll build not a single agent system, but a multi-agent system. And this is a game changing step because now you can create something a very powerful agent, a very powerful system, and a very powerful workflow in LangGraph. Now, please understand the journey so far. Please summarize the journey so far. What we did in the first few sessions, we understood how complex workflow can be implemented in LangGraph. We started with traditional workflow. We understood how these complex workflow, like hiring process of a firm, can be implemented in LangGraph. These workflow that we implemented through LangGraph were actually powerful. They allowed us to build structured, production-ready workflow where we have like state management, where we have conditional routing. However, there was a problem. The problem was the workflow were still static. They were not dynamic. All the decision making were hard coded. All the decision making, you can say, was implemented by human defined function, and they were static. Once defined, they will be static. The workflow itself, if I have to say, sorry, but didn't have any intelligence. Whatever intelligence we implemented came from the function that we defined, the human defined function. So I can say yes, yes, and yes, LangGraph helped in complex workflow handling. It helped in state management. It created a production ready control workflow. But the workflow was not intelligent. The workflow was still a static workflow. There was no hint of intelligence in this workflow. What we did then we moved one step further. We moved one step further and introduced reflection agent. How did we do that? We introduced intelligence in our workflow by connecting it with what? A large language model. With a large language model, and we created what? A reflection workflow. We initialized a large language model, and invoked intelligence within our workflow. What we did, we invoked the intelligence with the help of large language model in our workflow, and this was a reflection workflow. Now, this reflection workflow was very, very powerful. If I compare with the static workflow, it was intelligent in itself because it was able to generate response on itself. It was able to evaluate on itself. It was able to improve its response itself. No human intervention was required because it was able to think, it was able to reflect, it was able to improve, and it was able to evaluate. In one line, this became a self improvement engine. And this was a major, major step forward, introducing intelligence other than human intelligence in your workflow. But there was a limitation. Can you guess the limitation? The limitation was that we were using the same LLM to perform all the tasks. Same LLM, if you remember, we introduced Grok in our code. Same LLM to generate answer, to evaluate answer, to improve answer, and even to generate again the same LLM. This means what? This means there were no specialization. There were no concept of subject matter expertise, no task specific intelligence. Now let's compare it to the real world. Does the same human perform research, write content, evaluate it, and improve it? No. In the real world, a research is done by a researcher. Writing is done by writer. Evaluation is done by reviewer or a critique. Improvement is done by the editor. Each person has what? A subject matter expertise. But in the reflection workflow, we were using the same LLM, Grok, for performing everything. This is not ideal. This is not what we do in the human world. So even when we introduce LLM in the LLM world, this has to be respected. We need specialization. We need subject matter expertise. Now we introduce multi-agent system. In a multi-agent system, research agent will perform research work. Writer agent will perform writing. Critique agent will perform evaluation. And improvement agent will refine. Each agent is powered by a different LLM. What? A different LLM. Can you see research agent Grok, writer agent Gemini, critique agent Llama or Olama, improve agent Gemini, and again you have to like evaluate, you need Olama or Llama. Now you can see different LLMs are performing different tasks based on their specialization. So what it is introducing in your system, this is introducing subject matter expertise into your workflow. This is the key idea behind multi-agent system. Now let's understand what changes technically. What changes technically in the reflection workflow? What we did. Do you remember our last discussion? This was our reflection agent discussion, and this was the snippet of our code. What we did, we initialized only one LLM object. Only one LLM object. This was the object. LLM chat Grok. No different LLM object. It was Grok model. Everything was performed by Grok. And when we invoked the same object in all the nodes, or when we invoked the large language model LLM, in each node, it was LLM, it was LLM, it was LLM, it was the Grok LLM, same LLM everywhere. In multi-agent system, what we have to do? In multi-agent system, what we need to do? In the multi-agent system, we will initialize multiple LLM object, research LLM, writer LLM, critique LLM. Okay. Each one is initialized using a different class. Research agent, C, the class, the library. Writer agent, C, the class. It's Gemini LLM. What is the class? Chat Google Generative AI. What was the class here? It was the same Grok class, Chat Grok. For critique agent, Olama or Llama. What is the class? Chat Olama. See the library. So we initialize multiple LLM object, research LLM, writer LLM, critique LLM. Each one is initialized using a different class. Chat Grok for Grok, Chat Google Generative AI for Gemini, Chat Chat Olama for Llama. So this is the step one. What is the step one? Initialize different LLM object. Pipe different LLM into your workflow, in your LangGraph workflow. What is the step two? Invoke different LLM objects, in different node. When you're defining the nodes, right? You have to define the nodes. So I'm defining the nodes. See, for research agent node, I'm invoking research LLM. For writer agent node, I am inside the definition of writer agent node, I'm invoking writer underscore LLM. And for critique, the critique LLM. See, writer LLM, research LLM. Now, an important point. The first important point is that, see, here I'm still using what? LangChain. Why? Because the LangGraph didn't create any another library than LangChain or any new library. They are using the same LangChain library for invoking and initializing the different LLM object. Okay. Please remember, although initialization is different, invoking all the LLM is from the same function, that is invoke. It is a function of LangChain, not LangGraph. It is invoke, and invoke. So remember both the point that you need LangChain class and LangChain function for invoking or initializing your large language model. Now, each agent will perform its own specific task, its own specialized task. And that is the key difference between reflection agent and multi agent. Another important point that you might be thinking, the choice of which LLM perform which task is your design decision. You can decide, or you may decide, that Gemini is a better LLM for writing, or Grok is better at reasoning, or Llama is better at critique. You could be right, you could be wrong. That is fine. But what is important to understand, this multi-agent architecture is completely flexible. It allows flexibility. If you want to change the research agent, what you have to do, just have to define a different object. That's it. So you can easily change research agent to critique, critique to writer, right? You can change the model, you change the LLM. And that's why this system becomes very flexible and scalable. Now, what we'll do in the next lecture, if you understood all the concept, fine, but in the next lecture, we'll implement this entire architecture in Python using LangGraph and Jupyter Notebook. Okay, and there we'll try to compare the reflection agent and multi-agent. Okay, and that would be a practical session. Okay, with that, I'll pause here. Thank you. Have a nice day.